In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emmanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. Joining us today is Kristin Zhivago, a distinguished expert in customer-centric marketing and the author of Roadmap to Revenue. With a wealth of experience, Kristin has guided numerous companies in harnessing the power of data to drive growth and enhance customer engagement. Her insights into the intersection of marketing and technology are invaluable, especially in an era where understanding consumer behavior is as crucial as ever for our success. In this episode, Kristin will share her expertise in navigating the complexities of modern marketing strategies and how businesses can effectively adapt to thrive. Kristin, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
Yeah, that's great. I always enjoy having conversations with experienced marketers because we tend to have a little more focus on the fundamentals and less focus on the flashy new thing.
Yeah, well, these days the flashy new thing is fundamental. So
I like it. Well, tell me about how your experience as a revenue coach has shaped your approach to digital marketing and modernizing it.
Oh, golly, it's a big question. Well, going back to the basics, I've learned the hard way, working with hundreds of companies and interviewing thousands of customers, that there's still an enormous gap between what companies think is important to their customers and what the customers think is important. Because every time I take on a new client, I ask the company, what do you think is important and why did you market the way you market? And then I go out and I interview the customers and their list is completely different. And it's sad. I mean, I don't want it to be that way. It's given me more business to work on in all my career. I haven't run out of companies that don't do this, but they're still doing it. And now they're automating it. Now the gap is even bigger because they're assuming they understand the customer. And this is a very specific thing. Customers use very specific words and have very specific ideas. And it's the minutia that actually makes or breaks your campaign. Otherwise, it's just marketing, blah, blah. You're making the same promises everybody else makes.
Right. That is it's an interesting point, and I think that it's an interesting disconnect. So I guess let's just dive into what some of the ways that companies or business managers can start to reconnect with customers. What are your recommendations?
What we do is, what I've done for years now is I meet with a client, get all the background, do all the research about them and everything, and then I get on a Zoom call with. It only takes about 5 to 7 customers of a given type. Like if you're just selling to the CEO, okay, that's one type, but there might also be a purchasing agent on the B2B side, which we tend to focus on, or the user, maybe it's engineering software as the user. So there would be 3 types in that case.
Yeah.
And you interview 5 to 7 of each. And I use a method that I've worked out in all these thousands of interviews, fine tuning until I really got the deepest, most valuable answers to the questions that I ask, open-ended questions. It's a conversation. It's not a survey.
Yeah.
I've been thinking lately a lot about how search is being changed by AI.
Yep.
And one of my customers, one of our clients, we did this reality check research for ourselves recently.
Nice.
Which we do every so often. And one of them said, I don't use regular search anymore. because I'm having a conversation with GPT, and I like having a conversation with my search engine. I like being able to fine tune my questions. And, that's a very specific thing that he's just said. I'm ending up writing a whole blog article about it because it encapsulates exactly what's really happening with search out there.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of insight that you get when you interview them and you let them talk. And they're people who've already bought from you. So they have opinions. If you think about it, if somebody just called you and said, I know you just bought such and such, or you've been using it a while, what do you think? You'd have some stuff to say. Nobody needs to prepare for this meeting. They've got it in their heads. Well, this is what I was looking for. This is how I look for it. This is why I bought this one. This is what I thought of the competition and why I rejected them. This is money you can take to the bank. So the first thing is finding someone like me to interview them. You can do it internally. You just have to make sure the person is sort of a little bit outside, because otherwise they'll be too polite about what they say. They won't tell you what they're really thinking. And then you ask these open-ended questions. They're in chapter 3 of my book. Add a few more if you feel like there are a few other things you need. And then you prepare reports for management. I always do a conversation report, so they get word-for-word transcriptions. I also do a summary and recommendations report, which, by the way, AI has been very helpful with.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably took that summary time down to about 10 minutes, didn't it?
Well, not quite that far, but pretty close. I mean, I used to spend 8 hours retyping the stuff that's in the conversation report in bullets and I want it in my head anyway.
Sure.
But now I can do that with AI. It has to be better with AI than just giving it to Chat GPT. They can't handle it. So we're actually using a what I would call third generation AI platform for working out all of this stuff and getting the full benefit of AI. So that's what you do. You just interview them. You do these 2 reports, and then for at least 10 minutes, you've got a voice of the customer in the leadership meeting. And suddenly the finance guy isn't saying, well, we always did it that way, so that's what we're going to do. Or the engineer is saying, well, this is logical. Or somebody else is saying, well, I wouldn't feel that way. Why do they feel that way? You get rid of all those arguments.
Yep.
And now you're on point, and you do something I call getting into the mindset of the customer when they set out to buy, which is their desires, their concerns, and their questions.
Beautiful. That makes it way too easy to do the marketing.
Yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it. People are afraid to do it.
Yeah, right. And I agree. I like that where you say, have somebody a little bit outside of the people they always interact with. Otherwise, you get polite responses. It's funny. I'm just turning off a service that I've had for the last year, and I would have loved to have had the conversation with them about kind of going through the calendar about why I'm going to be canceling at the end of the year. And it's not anything they could change, but at least it would give them something for them to add to their product roadmap, right?
Yeah, software companies, most of my work, I would say the bulk of my work in the last 20, 30 years has been with software companies. I've always been in tech since tech really came to the mainstream. I started out with a digital voltmeter back in the day. Yeah, that's how far back I go. And they've spent so much time getting this product ready, and they're so determined now to get it out into the market that they often miss the very thing. And it might be in the product, but they don't realize how important it is.
Yeah.
I've turned whole companies around that way. They think this is important because it was so hard to do. And then you interview the customers, they're like, oh yeah, everybody has that. That's not why we bought it. We bought it because it does this.
Yeah.
And so what you find out is what makes your product special in the eyes of the customer. And then you can market to more customers like that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, and you can build that whole ICP against those interviews, and then also the marketing campaign and the content becomes very, very specific.
Yeah, exactly.
So give me a couple other things that you're kind of the secret sauce that you outline in the book, besides the open-ended questions and the conversation.
Well, there's a whole section in the book. It's actually better as a print book, which I hate to say because everybody's on their Kindle now and Audible. I do have an Audible version, but my research and all the work I've done has shown me that there's really 4 types of products and services in the world based on the amount of scrutiny that the person applies to the purchase. So there are light scrutiny products and services. You see it, you spend less than $10, you buy it. It's the impulse purchase at the checkout counter, things like that. No one else is involved,
Right.
Only 1 or 2 questions. Then there are medium scrutiny products and services where you have more questions, and this is more like clothing and in the B2C side, and simple software programs on the B2B side. And there might be someone involved maybe, but just sort of as a side player. And then there's heavy scrutiny where there's a contract and there's a salesperson and it's a long sales cycle, and that's cars and houses on the B2C, and complex systems like ERP systems and things like that for B2B. And then intense, where it's just like heavy, but you get married. I mean, it's a long-term commitment and there's a lot of people involved and a million questions. And in the book, I have those 4 sections mapped out, and it says, these are the kinds of questions that they'll ask. This is how you need to respond to them. And it helps you pick channels. People actually start marketing by looking at channels rather than looking at the message that they should be sending to their customers in the channels. You can put all the messages you want in channels, and if the message is wrong, the channel's not going to work. So you really have to do that initial research, and you have to understand how people buy. So you wouldn't do a newsletter on chewing gum, for example. But you would definitely do a newsletter, a monthly email newsletter for people buying complex software products, and you want to keep them understanding new things you're putting in the product and that type of thing.
Yeah. I'm curious if you do this sort of work with startups and how you approach it for a startup.
It's an interesting question. I backed up. We're actually working on a new product offering now for startups because the traditional agency model doesn't work as well for a startup as it does a mid-sized company. 25, 10, say 2 to 25 million. That's a real sweet spot for our digital agency. But I want the power of AI to be in the hands of small businesses, not just startups, but small businesses. Good. And run it on a subscription basis and then do things as they need them, but for much less than you would have to pay. And with this full suite of AI tools that we have at our disposal now because of what we're building with, or what our partner has built, and we're taking full advantage of.
Right.
So I think there's really 2 different ways to get into that. But your question is probably more about what if you don't have any customers to interview? Yeah.
Right.
And in that case, you can definitely go to people who might be interested and who might have bought similar things, and they're hard to find, but it's getting easier now with people reviewing and that kind of thing. You can put the word out on a forum rather. I was thinking of Quora, on a forum.
Yeah, right. Now, little Freudian.
So you can do that. You can go out to the community and say, I'm introducing this type of product. I want to ask some questions of people who bought similar products, and you can get closer. Yeah. But the beauty of this method is that you only have to talk to 5 to 7 people of a given type. So once you have 5 customers, you've got some bankable information that you can draw on. So that's how you do it.
No, I was just thinking too. It's a great initial marketing campaign for a startup. Also, looking for some volunteers.
Yeah, And why not? Exactly.
Well, I'm interested. I like this idea of the service for SMBs, and what's the release timeline going to be for that?
I hope within a month or two. That's pretty much what we're aiming for right now.
Yeah. All right. And so it'll be a chance to do do the interviews with existing customers, and then also some other marketing services, or what's
yeah, I can't really give people full value for their money. I can't if I'm not interviewing customers.
right.
Every single time I interview those customers, even by the third interview, you start saying, there it is right there. That's the thing they keep saying. Everyone's saying it maybe slightly differently, but they're all saying that one thing.
Yeah.
That's the thing that you take out to the market. In our reality check for ourselves recently, I was really pleased to see, I guess I'm bragging a little bit here, but
That's okay. Brag away.
I was so proud of my team because everybody said they're rock stars. They have an A team. They've gathered all these top professionals, which is true. Everybody's top in their field. Independent, vendors that I've found, and they're part of this tight-knit team. And we've supported them with really solid structure. I'm a great believer in structure. As a revenue coach, that was the one mistake I saw people making most of all, is they'd make promises and they couldn't meet those promises or keep them with the infrastructure that they had.
Right.
So it's really an important aspect. So I'm excited because they all said that. And the other fun thing was when the interviewer, I didn't interview myself because I knew they wouldn't, too close. But one person on my team who does this beautifully said, okay, one of the questions was, is there anything we could improve? And there's this long silence afterwards. And people are like, I can't think of anything,
Wow.
and they finally dug one up. Somebody said, it'd be good to have approvals come all at once on Friday afternoon. And I had to talk to him later and just say, we can't do that because then we'd be waiting every week for something to get approved that you want to done like tomorrow, right? So we'll work something out with him. We've decided that he can just kind of put us in a folder in his email, check if he can do it right away, fine, So we worked that out. But that was not bad for, having worked with them for a number of years.
Right. Well, I love it. Tell me again the name of the book and where we can get it.
The book is called Roadmap to Revenue: How to Sell the Way Your Customers Want to Buy. It's on Amazon in the Audible, Kindle, and hardcover. And again, the hardcovers, I hate to say it, but it's good for those intense scrutiny chapters because there's a lot of columns of things that you need to do, and it's much easier to read. But the Audible's not bad.
Yeah, I love it. And usually, I get everything in at least two formats anyway.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're saying about listening to the customers. That's a fundamental, and I really appreciate your time today. I'm grateful for you spending some time talking today. So thank you very much, Kristin.
You're welcome.
All right, well, just hang on for me, and we'll check in after I close things out. Okay, thanks, Kristin. All right, well, that was a great entreaty to pick up the roadmap to revenue and get us build this system for checking in with your existing customers, or to give Kristin a call after you read Roadmap to Revenue. So thanks for joining me today on Marketing.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emmanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.